Part 40. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 391. Chapter 391, Your eldest brother is too stupid to study. Seeing grandma and sister coming, Grn was so happy that he shouted before he could salute, "Grandma, Mr. Peng took me to see Mr. Tang. Mr. Tang praised me for my talent. From now on, I will go with him every other day." Mr. Tang practiced calligraphy for an hour. The old lady was confused by the gentleman on the left and the gentleman on the right, but she was happy when her grandson was happy and kept saying, "Okay, okay, I will study hard in the future." However, Zhao Yuru has been around the academy for a long time and has a very clear understanding of the academy. Now she will help her mother-in-law clear up her doubts. "Mom, this Mr. Tang is the famous calligrapher who is good at writing left-hand calligraphy. Many people came to the academy and wanted to ask him for advice, but I heard that no one wanted to see Mr. Tang. I didn't expect that Mr. Tang would actually be willing to teach our children. It really shows that Grn is talented. He loves his talent and cherishes his talent." The old lady finally understood, and her face lit up when she heard it. "Oh, then our family should prepare a thank you gift. We can't let others teach our children in vain." Grn was a little shy and replied with a smile, "Grandma, Mr. Tang said that he is old and is not ready to accept apprentices. He just gives me some guidance." "Silly boy, what we give you is not a gift, but a thank you gift." Old Mrs. Lee smiled and patted her grandson. "Think carefully, does the old gentleman have any hobbies, such as paper, ink, calligraphy and painting?" Mrs. Lee thought that all literati had such preferences, and was already thinking of entrusting Mr. Wen to help choose. Grn thought for a while and said, "I usually hear gossip from my classmates, but I have said a few words. It seems that Mr. Tang likes to grow flowers, especially orchids. He is obsessed with orchids." "Orchid?" The old lady and Zhao Yuru looked at each other, both feeling a little embarrassed. The Li family was born in a small farming family and is an ordinary citizen. To be honest, the whole family is struggling to survive. It is not easy to have enough food and clothing, let alone raising orchids, which I have never seen before. This is embarrassing. But, there is still the all-powerful little chubby girl here." Jiyan hugged her eldest brother's leg and listened to the excitement for a long time, and immediately made up her mind to go to the space nursery. With the magic weapon in hand, as long as she gets orchid seedlings or seeds, she can flood the Li family's orchids in a few days. Don't just give someone a pot as a thank you gift, you can just pick orchid leaves and cook them. "Brother, eldest brother, I can plant flowers." Jiyan tugged on her eldest brother's gown, trying to regain his sense of presence. Grn was afraid that his sister would pull off his belt, so he quickly picked her up and coaxed with a smile, "Okay, okay, big brother knows that Funiur can grow flowers. The flowers Funiur grows must be very beautiful. Wait for big brother, let's go see it later, okay?" Obviously, he regarded the flowers in his sister's mouth as wildflowers on the mountain. On weekdays, Jian, Jiaxi, and Cat Brother go up the mountain for mischief. Whenever they encounter beautiful wildflowers, they dig them up and plant them under the walls. Grn saw it last time he went home, so the brother and sister were talking at the same time and were not on the same channel at all. On the other hand, Mrs. Lee and her granddaughter had a good understanding of each other, and they immediately understood what her granddaughter meant. She was afraid that her granddaughter would yell something that she shouldn't say, so she quickly snatched her granddaughter and held her in her arms. "Don't worry about your eldest brother. He is too stupid to study. When we get home, Grandma will help you plant flowers." Jiyan decisively gave Grandma a big kiss. "Let the idiot brother step aside. Grandma is the only one in the world who is her soulmate." Grn didn't know that he had been rejected by his sister. He ate lunch in a hurry, played with his brother for a while and then went back to the academy. Mrs. Lee told him, Don't worry about the thank you gift for Mr. Tang. I will send it to you when the family is ready. Thank you, Grandma. Jiaran led Brother Li into the academy, but Brother Li was still a little reluctant to part with him. But thinking about it, his brothers would all be studying in the academy and they would be together all the time. He happily went to class again. Go Shenger was left behind. First of all, Jiaran and the others were in class, so he had nothing urgent to do. Secondly, he might have missed his parents for a long time and wanted to spend some time with them. Soon, all the students who came to eat were gone, and the whole shop became quiet. After everyone had a simple meal, they went to the new courtyard to take a look. Li Lao-san came back from outside in a hurry. When he saw his son and nieces and nephews, he stuffed the hot sticky cakes into them and said, "Eat it, it's just out of the pot." Jian, Jiaxi, and Cat brother immediately cheered. Jiaxi shouted happily, "Thank you, Dad." Jian and Cat brother also jumped to their feet and shouted, "Thank you, third uncle, third uncle." Jian shared a piece of sticky cake and climbed onto Sanbo's generous back. In this way, she can eat the sticky cake steadily while holding it in one hand. Li Lao-san carefully avoided his niece's injured hand, with distress in his eyes. Jie Huan is not at the shop, and the couple is busy working outside the house. They also have to take care of their two nephews. They are indeed too busy to take time off to go home and visit their little nieces. As a third uncle, he couldn't bear to suffer for his little niece, so he felt extremely anxious. At this moment, carrying the heavy fat his back and listening to her little mouth squeaking and eating the delicious food, he finally felt better. Dongmei and Yushin, who had followed along this time, stayed to look at the shop while the rest of the group went out the back door. Jian gave Go Shenger 2 pieces of sticky cake, and then he, Jiaxi, and Cat brother stretched out the sticky cake and ran ahead, which made Mrs. Li yell repeatedly, "Don't eat and run at the same time, be careful." Stomach wind. The originally quiet alley became lively because of the young and old. They didn't go far before they arrived at the courtyard diagonally opposite the shop, which was also the new home that Li Lao-san bought. Most of the people living in the small town of Luoan are college gentlemen or family members of students, and the family population is not large. So, the yard here is not too big. In the entire town, there are only a few courtyard houses with the third entrance, more than a dozen with the second entrance, and the remaining hundreds of houses are all small courtyards with the first entrance. The Li family's yard is very neatly built and well maintained. The doors and windows are all painted new. Moreover, there is no shortage of the main room, the east and west wing rooms, and the side rooms that serve as kitchens. There is also a well in the corner of the courtyard, so even though it is a small house, it has all the internal organs. There are 3 main rooms, and 3 east and west wing rooms. Excluding the main room for living and entertaining guests, there are 6 rooms for people to live in. Let alone the 5 boys staying in the academy, even if they all live at home, it is enough. It is convenient and quiet to come back for a meal at noon or evening. In the future, when Jiawen and Wenjuan get married, leaving a room for them will make it easy for Wenjuan to return to her natal family whenever she wants. Aunt Wu Sanzi praised it without hesitation. "This yard is really nice. It will definitely be comfortable to live in." Mrs. Li looked around and was very satisfied. She couldn't help but sigh with her son and daughter-in-law, "This person, no one can go ahead and see the future. I remember when our family first arrived in Qingshui village, there was a big tree at the entrance of the village. We were sleeping in the open air. At that time, I was holding Fu Niu in my arms, thinking that even if there was a shabby thatched cottage, it would be okay for us to stay. Who would have thought that only a few years later, our family had a big yard in Sujintan, bought a small yard in the city, and now we have another one here." End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 392. Chapter 392, A Free-Range Boy, A Pampered Daughter. Mom, this is a good thing. Zhao Yuru supported her mother-in-law's arm and said with a smile, this is because our family is living a good life and prospering, so we can continue to add real estate. Li Lao-san said honestly, yes, no matter where we live, we will be filial to you and take care of our family. Mrs. Li waved her hand, patted her daughter-in-law, and said, Mom is not worried that you are not filial, but because life is so good that you can't help but feel guilty. I am afraid that you will be proud of yourself and be unable to suppress these blessings. My mother is not with you, but you must be safe and sound. The meals provided to the students must be affordable, be worthy of conscience, and help those who are in need if you can. Don't worry, Mom, we all know that on weekdays, when students who are having a hard time at home come to eat, we always give them a few more pieces of meat and an extra spoonful of rice to make them feel full. To be honest, our children are also studying. This is a good thing for our family, and we can be around to take care of them. Otherwise, we don't know how to care about them at home, so, if we can help, we will definitely not be stingy. Zhao Yuru has been running a shop for a long time, and she feels much more relaxed and has become more independent-minded. What she says is reasonable and reasonable. Mrs. Li was happy when she heard this and nodded repeatedly, then I won't miss you anymore. When you have free time in the future, you can go home often. Hong Ying and I are the only ones at home, and we always feel empty. Okay, listen to me, Zhao Yuru responded. After everyone talked, they settled down and stayed here for one night. Jian, Jiaxi, and Cat Brother couldn't sit still. Go Shenger also wanted to take his parents for a walk in the town, so they went out again with a hula. Jian got up early and went on the road. Now he felt sleepy and fell asleep in the main room. Old Mrs. Li covered her granddaughter with a coat, rolled up her sleeves, and together with her daughter-in-law, she tidied up the side room, washed and wiped it. Even though she was a little tired from the work, she was happy. When children grow up, they are like little birds that have their own nests. The morning of the second day, Mr. Peng had no classes and was waiting at home early for Mrs. Li to come to the door. But the Li family did not enter the academy until 3 o'clock in the morning. It turned out that Li Lao-er also came to see off his nephews. Although the old lady is now the royal wife, sending a few children to the academy will not make people feel neglectful. In the end, it is better for him, the uncle, to come forward. Sure enough, Mr. Peng was very happy to see him and personally welcomed them to the study to talk. Mrs. Li exchanged a few pleasantries and took the good news to the backyard. Maid Xiaoyu is guarding the second door, and when she sees the old lady coming, she will report inside. Wen Juan quickly picked it up and helped Mrs. Li go inside. After sitting down to drink tea and eat snacks, Mrs. Li looked carefully and saw that Wen Juan's eyes were green and black, as if she had not slept well. She wondered if the concubine was acting like a monster again, so she asked a few questions, but Wen Juan started to cry. It turned out that she had also heard about the scandal in the academy, and that the student and the peasant girl were secretly teaching each other. The student was expelled from school, and the peasant girl's family could not get any benefits. She was also embarrassed, so she sent the peasant girl to live with distant relatives. But everyone is saying that the peasant girl was secretly sold by her family and sent to the south to be a concubine. She was so scared that she couldn't sleep these 2 nights. She was just a little bit away from being reviled by thousands of people and ending up miserable. Now sitting next to Mrs. Li and choking, Wen Juan was extremely grateful. Old madam, thank you very much for not disapproving of my lack of discipline and your willingness to marry me. I will definitely be filial to you in the future, and I will. Mrs. Li quickly patted her back and comforted the poor girl. You haven't had a mother to teach you since you were a child, so it's normal for you to act a little extreme. Besides, even if you make mistakes, my brother Huan can't hide from him. Everything will be over. It's over, Don't think about it. When you come in, discuss anything with your mother-in-law. She is a simple and steady-tempered person who is easy to get along with. Slowly, as you get older, it will be good if you and brother Huan can support the door. Wenjuan nodded vigorously, wiping away the tears. There was light in the eyes again. She took the sewing basket, took out a pair of shoes for the old lady, and gave an embroidered bag to Jiyan. Needless to say, the shoes are for the old lady, but the cloth bag is hung around Jiyan's neck to hold her injured hand. Jiyan's injured hand is almost healed, and the scabs are falling off one after another. Apart from itching, she feels nothing. Today, she has stopped using the decoction and medicine. This cloth bag was delivered a little late and was of no use, but Jiyan still thanked him with a smile. "Thank you, second sister-in-law." Wenjuan's face turned red when she heard that. Ms. Li tapped her granddaughter on the forehead and protected her future granddaughter-in-law. "Don't bully your second sister-in-law. Be careful that your second brother doesn't prepare delicious food for you." Honestly sticks out his playful way, making everyone laugh. After chatting for a while, Mr. Li Lauer and Mr. Peng had already sent the three boys to the school. Ms. Li said goodbye to Wenjuan, met her son at the front, and left the college. Ms. Li was thinking about her grandchildren and asked in a low voice, "Second brother, have you seen the children's husband? Does he look stern? There are only a few people in the dormitory. I wonder if the children can live there." Li Lauer, however, replied nonchalantly, "Mom, don't worry, they are all brats. It doesn't matter if they suffer a little, they won't become talented without being beaten. Besides, Jiaran and brother Li are here. If there is anything missing, the brothers can figure it out on their own." Ms. Li was annoyed when she heard this. She stretched out her hand and pinched her son. "Are you an elder like you? Just throw your child into the academy and not care about anything else." Li Lauer didn't say much and let his mother choke out her anger. Then he hugged his niece and smiled. "Don't worry about it, mother. Compared to our time, the boys in the family are already very happy. If they have arranged everything well, but what if they raise a few more weaklings? Just let them run wild. Besides, even if the family wants to pamper their children, they should also pamper us Funiur. We Funiur are so well behaved and smart. They are much better than those brats, right?" The good news was praised and she beamed with joy, nodding her little head vigorously. Old Ms. Li really couldn't laugh or cry when she saw it, so she just didn't care. A loving mother will often fail her children, and a loving nipple will never produce good children. As my son said, if you have such thoughts, it is better to raise your little granddaughter well. As for the grandchildren, they can be raised free-range from now on. The eldest son in the family is decisive and courageous, the second son is shrewd and tactful, the third son is honest and responsible, and the fourth son is brave and sturdy. Mr. Wen, a wise and elegant man, and the upright Mr. Ho often come in and out of the house. The boys are always exposed to it, and they can learn from no matter who they follow. At noon, Jiaran brought a group of brothers back for dinner. Old Ms. Li was surrounded by boys talking about the latest news in the academy, which made her brain hurt. She was no longer worried, and hurried home with her son and granddaughter in the afternoon. Jiyan remembered that Mr. Tang wanted orchids as gifts, so he made a fuss to buy them. Li Lauer loved his niece, so he said he would stop by to buy them. Yashin and Dongmei sat on the carriage shaft, asking around, and actually found a flower garden outside the city. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 393. Chapter 393. The Li family has this ability. The owner of the flower garden is an old man in his 60s and has a teenage grandson. I heard that my son and daughter-in-law went to other places to do business when they saw that growing flowers was not making money. Only the old man was still holding on to the skills passed down from his ancestors. Hearing that the Lee family wanted to buy orchids, the old man was very happy. He led everyone outside a separate small shed, placed 2 pots of flowers near the edge in a shady and diffused light area. The green wide leaves were drawn from a few stems in the middle, and only half of them were left, crooked, looking at the soft collapse, half dead. Even though the Lee family doesn't understand orchids, they can still tell the difference between good and bad. There is obviously something wrong with these 2 potted flowers. Lee Lauer frowned and asked, "Uncle, are you planning to sell these 2 pots of sick flowers to us?" The old man blushed, hemmed and hawed for a long time, then he simply broke the jar and said straight away, "Master, our grandson and grandson are going to join our son and daughter-in-law, and we are reunited as a family. These 2 pots of mochi, also called kyubang, happen to be like this flower's bloom in season. Originally, it was reserved for a nobleman in the city. Unfortunately, my little grandson was too sleepy to keep an eye on the beasts in the house. He let the beasts eat the buds away after a few mouthfuls. The nobleman came to see him for a moment and then left. He refused to buy it. It was just the right time. Come here, I just want to give it a try." His words sounded nice, but in fact he was taking advantage of the Lee family, guessing that they didn't know the business, and it was better to sell it in a fool than to lose it in his own hands. The old lady and Lee Lauer both had bad expressions on their faces, but Ji-Yin struggled to get off the ground and leaned over to take a closer look. In fact, the flowers, leaves and flower stems are all intact, but the flower buds are gone. If you put it in the hands of others, I'm afraid it will have to be kept for a year and a half, waiting for it to bloom again next year. But she has space for a nursery, so it's not a problem at all. After all, the shriveled melon seeds thrown on the wall have produced melon vines. These 2 pots of orchids are just minor injuries. Ji-Yin ran back to Mrs. Lee, grabbed her grandma's hand and scratched her palm. Mrs. Lee understood and guessed that her granddaughter had a solution, but her face remained calm. Just as she was about to speak, she heard a scream not far away, and a green mule suddenly ran out from the wooden fence behind, followed by the old man's grandson. It turned out that the boy became more and more angry because the mule had eaten orchids, so he could not go to reunite with his parents early, so he picked up a whip and wanted to beat the mule. As a result, the mule was not tied tightly and ran away. The old man stamped his feet angrily and cursed, "You can't be honest for a while. Why are you beating it? It can spit out the buds." Having said that, he wanted to apologize to the 3 members of the Lee family, but he saw the 3 members of the Lee family looking at the green mule with surprise on their faces. The old man was confused and asked cautiously, "Sir, these 2 pots of flowers, do you want to buy them?" Lee Lauer came back to his senses, glanced at Mrs. Lee, and when she nodded, he quickly said, "It will take us a year to grow it after we buy it, and it may not bloom yet. It is really risky. You can make a price. If it is cost-effective, I will just take it back and try it out." The old man hesitated for a while and then quoted a price, 50 taels for 2 pots. Having said that, he was afraid that Lee Lauer would find it too expensive, so he added, "I really don't want much. If the buds weren't gone, a pot of flowers would cost 50 taels. Lee Lauer waved his hand, pointed at the big green mule, and said, 2 pots of flowers, plus this mule, a total of 50 taels. If you agree, we will take it away immediately." Orchid and mule. What kind of combination is this? Are you interested in orchids or mules? The old man swallowed hard, thinking that the orchids were half dead and could not be sold at a high price, and the mules were also skinny and long-haired, so no one would buy them. It would be a complete peace of mind if they were dealt with together. So, he quickly nodded, sell. Li Lao asked happily, but felt embarrassed when he touched his wallet. He only took a dozen taels of silver with him when he went out. Fortunately, Mrs. Li sent her grandson to school and was well prepared. She put money in the secret compartment of the carriage. The two of them put their money together and it was enough for 50 taels. So, when the Li family's carriage left the nursery, there were 2 more pots of orchids in the carriage, and a mule was tied to one side of the carriage. The carriage didn't stop until they had gone a long way. Li Lao and the old lady jumped out of the car and surrounded the mule, both with red eyes. "Da Cheng? This is our Da Cheng?" Mrs. Li asked in disbelief. "It's definitely true, there are still scars on the buttocks," Li Lao replied affirmatively. Jiyan was lying on the window and couldn't help but touch the back of his head, subconsciously feeling some pain. At first, when everyone just walked out of the mountains and saw the Jinsha River pier in front of them, they were so happy that they lost their vigilance and were chased by a group of barbarians. Mrs. Li hugged Jiyan and sat on Daking's back to escape. As a result, Daking was shot in the by an arrow. He left the old lady and Jiyan behind and ran away without a trace. The family once thought that Daking died somewhere, but they didn't expect to meet him here. Da Cheng, who was originally tall and strong, may have been poorly taken care of, and became skinny and his coat was grey. At this moment, it also recognized Mrs. Li and Mr. Li, and there was a little light in its eyes. It flicked its tail and sneezed. Okay, now I recognize my family members," Mrs. Li said happily. "Hurry up and go home. Lao Si and Da Cheng are more familiar with each other, just let Lao Si feed him for a few days," Li Lao also said. Mrs. Li and Mr. Li got into the car again. Yashan whipped his whip and hurried home. Dong Mei carefully protected the 2 potted flowers, not wanting to break them due to bumps. "Even though this flower doesn't look good, as soon as you enter Li's house, keep it in good condition. Don't ask her why, the Li family just has this magical ability." Jiyan didn't know that she had been deified in Dong Mei's heart. She was secretly rubbing her buttocks. The road was really bumpy. No matter how thick her flesh pads were, they were still shaken to pieces. Fortunately, Mrs. Li held her in her arms and sat her down, rocking her, and she fell asleep again. Li Lao was originally worried that his niece would go to the restaurant to see her, but he was relieved when he saw her sleeping soundly with her mouth open. The Broken Gold Beach is also very lively today. There was no work in the orchards and riverbanks on the mountains, so the village chief was concerned and put road and bridge construction on the agenda. The road from Zindu to Sujintan was not very good to begin with. Over the past 2 years, with the constant traffic, the road has become even worse. It is full of potholes, and every now and then a carriage will be broken. It's really impossible not to cultivate. Previously, Li Zheng from the Weisha village and Daxiao Wangzhuang both agreed to provide help. After all, Sujintan will be the foundation and support for everyone in the future. So the village chief found the 3 of them and sat under the Feng Shui treasure land sign, smoking dry cigarettes and discussing. Li Zheng from the Weisha village, who is old and has some experience with the weather, said, "Brother, although we don't have particularly heavy snow here every winter, it will be impossible to start construction after it freezes. Look at the sky, it will definitely be winter in 1 month. Simply, we might as well start a big thing and get all the work done before winter comes." The 3rd update is here. Tomorrow will be even more exciting, so stay tuned. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 394. Chapter 394. If you don't obey me, pull your hair out. The village chief couldn't help but smile and said, "Are you saying that all the villages mobilized and built the roads together?" Li Zheng from the Weisha village, whose surname is Jing, is not much younger than the village chief. He did not have any stage fright now and responded, "Yes, brother, although our grain tax is still handed over to the court, the three of us each village is the fiefdom of the princess. In the future, whether we are planting melons or beans, the princess will always have arrangements for us. After the roads are repaired, it will be convenient to transport things and move around each other in the future. De Wang Zhuang and Xiaoang Zhuang Lichhan, of course both have the surname Wang, and they nodded accordingly. De Wang Zhuang Lichhan said, especially the section from the village to Guan Road is fine in winter, but in summer the carriage can get stuck in the mud if we walk on it. We ourselves don't like walking, let alone outsiders. The village chief thought for a while and said, my uncle and the old lady are not here today. I will discuss it with them when they come back. Every three of them laughed. After hearing this, it was almost done. At this time, the Li family's carriage came back. Everyone hurriedly stood up to greet him. When they saw the mule tied next to the carriage, everyone in the new village gathered around him excitedly. Is this Daking? Oh, it's Daking, Daking is back. Li Lauer jumped out of the car, untied Daking's reins, and said happily, I was going to buy something on the way, but I didn't expect to meet Daking. This guy was injured and ran away without a trace, but he didn't expect to go around in circles. Turn, it's back again. The village chief was so happy that he took the reins and personally led Daking to eat grass by the roadside. At the beginning, the whole village was crossing mountains and ridges in order to escape for their lives. People from the Lu family and the Hu family walked away a lot one after another, but Daking, the mule, followed them all the time. It can be said that he is already a member of the village, just a fellow villager who cannot speak. Although Mrs. Kui later gave a green mule to the Li family and named it Xiao Qing, Daking's status in everyone's hearts has never been replaced. Jing Lichhan and others didn't know the whole story. After asking a few questions in a low voice, they became more determined to follow Zinken and the Li family's footsteps. These people are so concerned about a beast who is in trouble together. It can be said that they are very affectionate and righteous. As long as the three villages do not betray and have no external intentions, they will never go wrong in the future. Lao Er Li stayed to discuss with everyone about building a bridge and paving roads, and Mrs. Li went home with the good news. Hui Niang was really bored. Taking advantage of the fact that there was no wind and no one was home, she took the child and stood at the door for a while. Li Yong had already raced back, picked up another child, and talked with his wife. Seeing the old lady coming back, Madame Hui turned around and tried to hide in the house, but in the end she was caught by the old lady. Disobedient girl, how many times have I told you that you have to wait until the end of the month, not even a day less? You will suffer from the root cause of illness in the future, and you will suffer when you do. Hui Niang was scolded, but she still smiled. She put her head out and replied, Auntie, I'm going back right away. I just came out to take a breath, and I haven't even finished half a cup of tea. Old Mrs. Li glared at her and waved her hand to chase people into the house. Li Yong helped send the child in. After watching his wife close the door, he moved forward and moved 2 pots of flowers to accompany Mrs. Li to the main room. When there was no one around, he said, Auntie, Divine Dr. Zhang is going to Yunwu Mountain to look for some medicinal materials. I want to accompany him on the trip. In the past 2 days, please help me take care of Hui Niang and the child. Original Mrs. Li also heard a few words from Dr. Zhang before. Now that Lu Biatu can't leave, and the 4th son is at the camp dock again, Li Yong is the only one left who can follow him. So she didn't think much about it and complained, this old man is going crazy thinking about new medicines. You just came back and I wasn't allowed to spend more time with your wife and children. Why did you get arrested and used as a guard again? Li Yong smiled and said, Don't worry, Aunt, I also borrowed a few of the Marquis soldiers. There are many of them, and we can take care of each other. Orange Mrs. Li stopped stopping her, and after a few more gossips, Li Yong left. Ji Yin squatted next to 2 pots of orchids, turned to look at Li Yong, and felt that his reason for going into the mountain was not that simple. Mrs. Li didn't know how her granddaughter would clean up these 2 pots of flowers, but it would definitely be inconvenient for people coming and going at home. So she called Dongmei and Shui Yun and moved the flower pot to Yes yard. Master Ho doesn't come back often, the Ye family yard is quiet, and Ji Yun can do whatever he wants. Ji Yun Pai Dion followed behind and asked Dongmei and Shui Yun to move the flower pots into her wing. On the pretext of taking a nap, she kicked the 2 of them out and then she entered the space with them and the flowers. In fact, the best way to restore 2 pots of orchids is to plant them in a nursery. But these 2 pots of orchids are to be given away. They are too exaggerated and eye-catching, and it's hard to explain them. After a few rounds of good news, she finally came up with a good idea, pulling out the orchids in the pot, spreading a layer of nursery soil at the bottom of the pot, and planting them again. Nursery soil is equivalent to super fertilizer, and it will definitely promote the growth of orchids. Of course, this is all her guess, and we can only know after practice. Unfortunately, there is always a gap between ideas and reality. The first pot of orchids was probably a flower pot that I had been too attached to for a long time. I was so tired that I dropped it, so I finally pulled it out, added some nursery soil and planted it back. The second pot of orchids is very timely. After all, my companion's head was cut bare and he has already paid the price for his stubbornness. At this moment, it wants to grow 2 legs and jump out of the basin. At last the work was done. The good news was so loud that my whole body was covered with dirt. I wiped away the beads of sweat, and my face became stained. On the fruit tree on one side, in a cage hanging, a little green snake was spitting out its head, glaring with 2 small eyes and waving its tail in glee. Ji Yun rolled her eyes at it and cursed, "Are you stupid because of the detention? I wonder if you are full or hungry, it all depends on my mood." I declare that you have no eggs to eat today." The little green snake didn't know if he really understood it, and he immediately lay down with his head hanging down. What mistake did it make to deserve such punishment? At the beginning, when they were loving each other, Hua was robbed of their treasure. The daughter-in-law chased him, but she was beaten to death, and he was captured here again. He was detained for 2 years. This little girl will be given an egg if she remembers it. If she doesn't remember it, she will be hungry for 10.5 days. Poor, its small mouth was almost bursting as it had to swallow the eggs. It has finally been trained to swallow the eggs without any effort, and there are no eggs to eat anymore. This life is really unbearable. Ji Yun bullies the little green snake every day, then turns around and goes out. When Grandma He saw that her little master had turned into a mud monkey, she quickly took her to the hot spring pool, washed her thoroughly, changed into a set of clean clothes, pierced 2 little chirps, and put golden bells on her wrists. After the good news, she ran back happily. Went home. At this moment, the sky was getting dark, and Mrs. Li stood under the eaves of the corridor, picking up vegetables. Shui Yun and Dongmei were cooking dinner in the kitchen, and the aroma of the food was already wafting out. Seeing that her granddaughter came back clean and beautiful, Mrs. Li smiled and said angrily, "If you don't come back, Grandma will go find you." "How about it? How did you harm the 2 orchids?" "Then but 50 taels of silver is too expensive, so you must be merciful." Ji Yun thought of the bald orchid and felt a little guilty. She responded with a smile, "Grandma, don't worry, Fu Niu is an expert at growing flowers." End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 395. Chapter 395. A penny beats the tiger fighting hero. Mrs. Li raised her chin and motioned her granddaughter to look at the half-dead wildflowers under the courtyard wall. They are all the work of little flower growers. They water them when they think about it, but they stay dry for half a month when they don't. Luckily they are wildflowers and have strong vitality. Otherwise, if there was a shortage of firewood at home, they would just be plucked out and thrown into the stove. Jian covered her face. "Oh, Grandma is so cruel, she doesn't hit people in the face. She is just lazy from time to time, why should she argue with a child? It's a pity that the little green snake in the space doesn't know, otherwise it would probably hold the wildflowers and cry loudly. It's a pity that we are all elves in the mountains, how come we fell into the hands of this little witch?" While the grandfather and grandson were talking, Li Zhensheng and Tao Hongying finally came back from the city. In the yard, the deserted scene just now was gone, and it became a lot more lively. Mrs. Li was busy hurriedly, and she was very happy. This actually flattered Li Zhensheng. When he saw that Jiyan was the only child left at home, he understood. The naughty boys were all sent to the academy to study. I couldn't adapt to it for a while and disliked the deserted home. On weekdays, the Li family's dinner table can't fit even 2 tables. Today, the children are not here, Mr. Li is not here, and Jia Huan stays in the restaurant to keep watch. So everyone sat at a table, with half of the seats still vacant. Mrs. Li couldn't put her chopsticks down. "Tonight, the family members are going to live in the academy, and I don't know if they can get used to it." Everyone hurriedly tried to persuade them, and Li Zhensheng smiled and said, "They are all young men, so you don't have to worry about me." Tao Hongying knew her mother-in-law best, and she pretended to be sad and said, "Yes, mother, you can't focus solely on your grandson. You should think about your family. I have to be busy in the restaurant for a few days, and I can't care about anything else. Seeing that winter is about to come, my mother has to organize more than 20 sets of cotton clothes and pants from Uncle Zhao and the others in the backyard, as well as ours." Li Laoer understood and added fuel to the fire. "Also, we just discussed it today. Our village and 3 other villages will work together to build bridges and roads. First our village, then Daweishu, Dawangzhuang, and Xiaoangzhuang. Where to do it, wherever there is work, a lunch will be provided. It's not easy for 100 people to have enough food and drink. Starting tomorrow, our village will have to be repaired for almost 10 days. Mom has brought the village women with her, so she has to give us a good backing. Normally, the family would never let the old lady take care of these tasks, but now everyone tacitly delegates them to the old lady. First of all, there are really not enough manpower. Secondly, I also hope that the old lady can divert her attention and not worry too much about her grandchildren leaving home to study, which will make her sick again." Sure enough, no matter how powerful Mrs. Li is, she can't defeat her children who work together. After eating, she hurriedly opened the warehouse and found all the materials and cotton suitable for making coats and trousers. These are usually gifts from Mrs. Kui and Mrs. Lu. They are not expensive, but very practical. Unfortunately, it is still far from enough to arrange coats and trousers for all the family members. So Mrs. Li asked Grandma He to make a list and went to the city to buy some when she was free. Not only that, tomorrow at noon, they will have to cook for the road construction workers, not only for the people of my own village, but also for the other 3 villages. Meals should be affordable and decent, and should not be laughed at behind your back or have to make a menu out of nowhere. Tomorrow morning I have to go to the village warehouse to collect food. If there is any shortage of ingredients, I have to buy them." Jiyan was worried that her grandma would have random thoughts, and she wanted to lie down on the bed, talk to her, and comfort the old lady. As a result, Mrs. Li fell asleep as soon as she touched the pillow. In fact, the family does not delegate so much work to the old lady, and Mrs. Li has no time to worry about her grandchildren. After all, late autumn is always the busiest time for farmers. Even though the Li family now has no shortage of food and drink, some habits are still engraved in their bones, such as drying vegetables, cooking beans and breaking into sauce cubes, storing cabbage and radishes, chopping and stacking firewood. Each one of them is related to whether the family can have enough food, clothing, and warmth to spend the winter well. And the bridge building and road building project started with great fanfare in Ruginton. Every one of the men in the village was involved. The women were busy cooking, while the old people brought water to the construction site and helped take care of the tools. The naughty boys are still studying in school, but they will also go to the construction site in the afternoon to do small jobs within their ability. The villagers didn't stop him. Whose kid didn't follow his father and grow up while learning? After 2 or 3 days of busy work, Huanayang was finally out of confinement. She soaked herself in the hot spring pool and washed herself for a full hour before she finally felt alive. When she entered the house with her hair down, the 2 children were being put on the kong. Jiyan and Grandma He were surrounding them, laughing and teasing them. Grandma He turned around and quickly took a cloth to wrap her half-wet hair. Although I'm in confinement, I still have to be careful. It's easy to get a headache if your hair is so wet. Jiyan didn't understand this, so she just wanted to enjoy the excitement. For the time being, she was only interested in the 2 fat children in front of her. The family is living a better life now, not as poor as before. This time Huanayang is in confinement, and Mrs. Li and Tao Hongying are all making chicken soup and fish soup. Huanayang drank it every day. She didn't gain a few pounds herself, but she fed her 2 children into fat bodies. At this moment, the fat boy was spitting bubbles seriously, but every time he succeeded, Jiyan would reach out and pop them. The fat boy was so angry that he scratched his hands and kicked his feet. His little face turned red, he was babbling and didn't know what to say, and Jiyan laughed evilly. Huanayang was not angry when she saw her son being bullied. Instead, she laughed along with him. Mama He helped her braid her hair into 2 braids, which was cool and neat. Unexpectedly, a commotion suddenly broke out outside the yard. The 3 of them looked out through the window and jumped up in shock. Several soldiers carried a stretcher, followed by a group of people, who crowded into the yard. Lying on the stretcher was Li Yong. Huanayang ran out like crazy and threw herself on the stretcher. Everything she wanted to say was blocked in her throat, leaving only tears flowing down her face. Li Yong's chest and back were covered in blood, and he inhaled in pain. He tried his best to comfort his wife. "Don't worry, I'm fine, it's just flesh wounds." Dr. Zhang was also following him in a state of embarrassment. At this moment, he cursed, "This kid is really annoying. He promised to accompany me to the mountains to collect medicine, but he just went to fight the tiger alone. Fortunately, he has a saber. It's sharp enough, otherwise there's no way you'll come back alive." At this moment, Mrs. Li was also out of breath and chased her back. She helped Huanayang and advised, "Let Daong settle down first. We can talk later if you have anything to say." Everyone quickly placed Li Yong in the wing room. The fire pit in the wing room is very large. It can accommodate Hui Niang and her 2 children on weekdays, and Shui Yun or and he helps keep watch at night without being crowded. Now that Li Yong has been accommodated, it is quite spacious. When we were on the mountain, Dr. Zhang only stopped Li Yong's bleeding. Now he had to take off his clothes, clean and apply medicine, and even needed stitches on some injuries. After all the hard work, the old man was very tired. But Li Yong really suffered from flesh and skin injuries, and his muscles and bones were all fine. Everyone who heard the news breathed a sigh of relief. Li Lao asked everyone to disperse, and then he, Mrs. Li and the village chief went into the house to visit. Hui Niang couldn't care less about being shy and grabbed her husband's hand, not daring to let go for a moment. Old Mrs. Li was very angry and scolded Li Yong, "You are the father of 2 children, why are you still so reckless? If something happens to you, what will Madame Hui and the children do? You are not going to accompany Dr. Zhang to collect medicines. Why are you still having with Tiger?" Li Yong was a little weak, but his eyes were bright and frightening. "Auntie, I heard that there are tigers in Yunwu Mountain, so I went to find them by collecting medicine, otherwise I was afraid you wouldn't agree. I just passed through the city and the dead tiger has been sent to the Marquis mansion. The chief steward will sell it for me. I heard it's at least 500 taels. I plan to build a house here for Hui Niang and her 2 children. From now on, even if I go to war with the Marquis, I don't have to worry about them, mother and son. After saying this, his eyes brightened even more. I have already drawn the drawings, which need to be arranged in front and back, so that the children can live in it when they get married. Madame Hui likes embroidery, and I have to set up an embroidery room for her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 396. Chapter 396. It's not too late to act now. Huanayang wanted to say that she didn't want a house or a yard, as long as he was safe and sound, but as soon as she started talking, she couldn't help hugging her husband and burst into tears. Mrs. Li and others saw this with mixed feelings. I still remember that when Li Yong was still young, Master Yan, he stood in front of the deserted valley, dancing excitedly and shouting that he wanted to build this place into a fairyland on earth. So high-spirited and free and easy. Now that he has become a responsible husband and father, it should be a good thing, but why are they so sour in their hearts? Everyone will have pains when they grow up. Some people finish it in an instant, while others have to break the bones and muscles step by step and then reassemble them. Evidently Li Yong belongs to the latter. He suppressed the suppression and distrust at home for more than 10 years, and it finally broke out when the marriage was blocked. He watched his wife being given abortion pills, and his wife and children almost died. He finally despaired of his family, abandoned everything, and established separate families, which can be said to be a betrayal of all relatives. Now, in order to support his family and give his wife and children a roof over their heads, he abandoned his dreams and hobbies, began to fight on the battlefield, and began to work hard to make money. Perhaps, the method is a little clumsy and the cost is high, but there is no doubt that he has grown from a to a qualified pillar, a real man who stands upright. Happily congratulatory, but also really distressing. Mrs. Li waved her hand, took Mr. Li and the village chief out of the room, and asked the young couple to talk. The more the merrier. More people mean more food, but work is also really fast. Another 5 or 6 days passed, and when Li Yong's flesh and skin injuries were mostly healed and he could take a leisurely stroll, the path under the archway had been repaired, leaving only the stone bridge that still needed a lot of work. But most of the manpower has already moved to Dawaisha village. After all, building a bridge is a technical job and does not require so many people. Waiting aside is a waste of manpower and delays in progress. The invitation from the Lu family has been sent to the Li family, and a banquet is scheduled for tomorrow. Mrs. Kui was worried that the Li family's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law would wear the wrong clothes and be laughed at when attending such an occasion for the first time, so she came over in a carriage one day in advance. Actually, how could anything go wrong when Grandma He was around? It's rare that Tao Hongying didn't go to the restaurant to help out today. At this moment, people of all ages gathered in the old lady's house, choosing clothes and jewelry. Because it is a happy event and Mrs. Li has a royal decree, she chooses more luxurious clothes and jewelry. And good news is even easier. Counting everyone in the family, she has the most new dresses and jewelry. She can choose with her eyes closed, and she doesn't have to worry about being inferior to others. Only Tao Hongying is used to being thrifty and always busy in the kitchen, so she doesn't have any suitable gorgeous clothes. Fortunately, Mrs. Kui thought of this and brought 2 sets of her new clothes. The 2 of them are not much different in age and have similar body shapes. It would be suitable to choose one set and try it on. Ji-Yun felt extremely guilty as she watched her mother pull the brocade skirt carefully. On weekdays, she not only ignored her mother's career ambitions, but also ignored that her mother was also a woman who loved beauty. From now on, she would definitely buy more new clothes, shoes, and jewelry for her mother. In short, she wants to dress her mother up as the most beautiful mother in the world. Of course, action is worse than thinking. It's never too late to start anything. So, while everyone was chatting, they saw the sound of good news dragging a small box from the end of the con. Without waiting for them to ask a few words, Ji-Yun opened the box cover, and the golden light was dazzling. It turns out that the box is full of gold bracelets, jade bracelets, gold hairpins, gem pendants, big pearls. It can be said that they have everything, and each one is extraordinary. You must know that most of these things are accumulated by the Marquis mansion and obtained from the palace. Even if the materials are mediocre, the craftsmanship of the internal craftsman is extremely rare. Not to mention that Huanayang and Shuiyu were straight-eyed. Even Mrs. Kui and Aunt He, who had seen the world, were a little surprised. Ji-Yun tried her best to push it to her grandma's hand. "Mom, choose something good-looking, wear it and drink." Tao Hongying subconsciously raised her hand and quickly closed the box. "You saved this yourself. What did you do with it?" "Put it away quickly." "Yes, I will save it for my dowry in the future. These are all good things that the Marquis has saved for you." Mrs. Li also nodded quickly to coax her granddaughter. When Ji-Yun saw the posture of her grandma and her mother, she couldn't do it without making a big move, so she started crying with red eyes. "No, other people's mothers are beautiful, and my mother must be beautiful too." Sure enough, Mrs. Li and Tao Hongying immediately panicked. They surrounded the two fat girls and wanted to tear their hearts out as long as she stopped crying immediately. Mrs. Kui, Hui Niang, and others looked at it funny and quickly advised her, "Just listen to Fu Niuer. The little girl also knows how to be good. She doesn't want others to say that her mother is not beautiful." Old Mrs. Li sighed, still reluctant to part with it, but when she saw her daughter-in-law's bare bun with only a silver hairpin inserted, she immediately changed her tune. "Hongying, just choose a few, don't feel bad. Whichever is better, choose whichever one is better. Don't you know that your daughter is so obsessed with money that she may hide the best ones and bring out the second-rate ones?" These words were so heartbreaking that I forgot to even sob at the good news and froze in embarrassment. Grandma has been getting better and better at cleaning her up lately. Although this is true, she did hide diamonds and gems, but this box is also full of good things. Red gold twisted flower bracelets, gold inlaid jade hairpins, large pearl strings, emerald jade pendants. They were all her favorites, and she would not be willing to take them out if it wasn't for her mother. Seeing her daughter's guilty look, Tao Hongying couldn't help but smile. "Okay, then I'll choose a few more pieces, so I can't let down my daughter's filial piety." Finally, she chose a silver hairpin with a red magnolia flower head, a pair of glossy open red gold bracelets, and a long chain of bluestone pearls. These are jewelry that don't look eye-catching, but look noble. The good news bothered the old lady, so she also chose a gold hosta inlaid with bluestone with the word longevity, which made the old lady smile. She also showed off her wealth once or so. It is rare to be generous with good news, so a good person will stick to it. She chose a gold and jade-topped plum blossom hairpin for Mrs. Kui, and a pair of emerald gourd earrings for Hui Niang. Of course they refused, but in the end they were persuaded by Mrs. Li to accept it. One of them is the aunt who loves good news as a daughter, and the other is the master who teaches good news about female beauty and enlightenment. A little thank you should be given when receiving good news. After breakfast the next day, the Li family's carriage pulled Li Laoer and Li Zhenshen, and the Kui family's carriage pulled Mrs. Kui, Mrs. Li, Tao Hongying, and Ji-Yun, plus Aunt He and Dong Mei, and they set off together to Liao's home. Li Laosi couldn't come back from the dock, so Huanayang and Li Yong were left to take care of the house. The Lu family was originally a wealthy family with a century-old foundation. Now, because Lu's Haiheng was awarded a fourth-rank official by the emperor, he held a banquet, so the house was naturally filled with guests. The sun has just risen, and the road in front of Liu's house is about to be blocked by carriages and horses. Hey, it's the end of the month, please support the little lucky girl, hugging her legs and acting cute, please give her a thumbs up, 5 stars or a thumbs up, and a must-read vote. Huahua is working coding, and I'll see if I can add more to the treasures tomorrow. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 397. Chapter 397. The Li family keeps a low profile and makes a high-profile appearance. The Lu family has always kept a low profile, but this time when his son became an official, Mr. Lu rarely wanted to be high-profile. So, many relatives and friends were invited to the banquet today. Not only were there many male guests in the front yard, but there were also many female guests in the backyard. Especially Lu's Haiheng's 2 sons were at home, so many people also brought their children of similar age. For a time, the Lu family's front yard and backyard were really busy. Mrs. Lu was sitting in the flower hall, greeting the matrons of various families who were familiar with her, as well as the aunts, uncles, and sisters-in-law of the same clan. Everyone talked about their clothes, jewelry, and the weather, which seemed to be a harmonious relationship. A woman saw that Mrs. Lu was always looking outside, as if she was waiting for someone, so she smiled and asked, "Are there any distinguished guests coming?" Mrs. Lu didn't want to take it seriously and nodded and replied, "Yes, I really invited a few distinguished guests today." When everyone was curious and wanted to ask more questions, a little girl ran in and reported, "Madam, Mrs. Li and the others are here." Mrs. Lu stood up quickly and went out to greet everyone before she had time to say hello. Everyone was curious, so they got up and walked to the door to take a look. At this moment, a group of people walked in outside the hanging flower door. Mrs. Liu's nanny, Aunt Tang, is supporting an old woman about 50 years old, wearing a dark blue cloud peacock pattern coat. She has a handsome figure, slightly gray hair, neatly combed, and a jade hairpin with the word longevity inserted, which made her eyebrows bright and kind. She is holding a 4 or 5-year-old her right hand, wearing a silver red slanted shirt, a plain white pleated silk skirt, some soft little hair tied with 2 small buds, wrapped with a red ribbon inlaid with pearls, a pair of the Ertonko golden borer landed on the flower buds, vividly appearing. Looking at her chest again, she was wearing a 7-treasure necklace. At this moment, it was dazzled by the sun, and the jewels were particularly eye-catching. But the most attractive thing is the girl's appearance. Her skin is as white as milk, her eyebrows are light, her eyes are as big as black grapes, her long eyelashes are flickering, her small nose is upturned, and her lips are red. Sushi was very happy to see Mrs. Lu. Her big eyes were like crescent moons when she smiled, so happy and cute. Following the old man and the young man were 2 women of about the same age. One was wearing a lotus green shirt, elegant and noble, and the other was wearing purple, smart and generous. Everyone became more and more curious as they watched. They all guessed when this noble person was acquainted by the Lu family. How come they had never seen him before? Could it be a semi-reclusive family in Kyoto? At this time, Mrs. Lu had already stepped forward and shouted affectionately, "Auntie, why are you here? If you don't come, I will send someone to rush you." As she spoke, she bent down to pick up Jiyan and said, "We Funiu are here. Your 2 brothers were urging the kitchen to make your favorite snacks last night." Jiyan hugged Mrs. Liu's neck, kissed her, and said coquettishly, "Thank you, Auntie. Funiu also brought delicious fruits to Auntie and my brothers. Needless to say, these are the Li family and Mrs. Kui." Mrs. Li smiled and explained, "When I was about to go out, This girl made a fuss about bringing gifts to Zhaiheng, including flowers, plants, and fruits. She was busy for a long time, and then she came out late. Mrs. Lu turned around and saw that several of her stewards had indeed carried 2 baskets. Dong Mei also carefully carried a 3-foot-tall straw basket. She didn't take it seriously, thinking that the Li family just brought fruits picked from the mountain, so she smiled and said, "Our Fu Niu is the most considerate, knowing that auntie is short of fruits for the banquet today. Come on, go into the house, auntie will give you some, you get some snacks." Everyone arrived at the flower hall chatting and laughing. Mrs. Lu personally helped Mrs. Li to sit down. Tao Hongying and Mrs. Kui stood beside the old lady. On the contrary, good news was placed in another empty seat. Everyone looked more and more surprised, but Mrs. Lu did not let them guess for too long, and introduced with a smile, "This is Mrs. Li from Zhongshan Bafu, and she is also the first-grade imperial concubine of the emperor. Speaking of which, my husband's promotion to the 4th rank today is all thanks to the blessing of the uncle's house. Without the uncle's search for corn and potato seeds in the south, how could our husband be as glorious as he is today?" After saying that, she held Ji Yin's little hand again and said, "This is the adopted daughter of Marquis Zinting, and she is also the princess of Kangal whom the emperor personally conferred." Everyone was shocked, and then they realized that this old man and young man were actually members of the Li family. The 3 words Li family are now well known both inside and outside Kyoto. Of course, some people praise it, some people are curious about it, and some people ridicule it. There are mixed reviews. Because this family was born as refugees and fled here, they provided too many topics for the new capital. Whether it is the various protections of Xintinghao, the near-death return of the Li family boss, or the donation of jade melons and golden fruits, or the reward for donating food, all these pieces together are enough to make people talk about 3 days and 3 days. It's night. It just so happens that the Li family is very low-key, old and young. Even if they receive awards and become one of the nouveau riche, they never show up anywhere. But today, the family members of the Li family actually came to the Lu family's banquet, which shows how close the Lu family and the Li family get along. No matter what everyone thought, they all quickly stood up and saluted at this time. Because, none of them is as high-ranking as Mrs. Li, let alone the princess of the Li family's little girl. Old Mrs. Li smiled and raised her hand to help everyone. "You are welcome, I came here today just to congratulate Zhaiheng. I didn't expect to be late and disturbed everyone. I hope you can forgive me." How could anyone dare to accept this apology? Someone quickly laughed and echoed, "The old lady is not late, we have just arrived." A woman spoke humorously, "Yes, it's because it's so busy today. Most of the streets outside the door are blocked, so it's not easy to get in." Everyone laughed and saluted the little princess Ji Yin. Ji Yin did not show any airs, jumped down to the ground and returned the salute in a decent manner, smiling sweetly and joyfully. How can a woman not like children, let alone such a cute and lovable little chubby girl, so they all praised her. "The princess is so fair and clean. Do you take any supplements on weekdays?" Before Mrs. Li could respond, someone in the corner sneered, but when everyone looked, they couldn't find who it was, so they just thought they heard it wrong. Mrs. Li raised her eyebrows slightly and said with a smile, "My girl is naturally fair, but she is also afraid of being exposed to the sun. One day in the sun will make her look like black coal, but she will recover quickly if she is bored at home for 2 days. After saying that, she turned her head and motioned for Tao Hongying to come forward. "I really don't know what I feed this child on weekdays, because my wife-in-law takes care of it with her own hands." Mrs. Lu took the opportunity to introduce Tao Hongying to everyone. "This is the princess's mother, the 4th lady of the uncle's house." Then, she personally took Mrs. Kui a few steps forward. "This is Jinro, the only daughter of Kui Jenkins bachelor. She was originally married to Kyoto, but now she has returned to Jiangnan with the move of the capital." Everyone knows that my husband has no sisters, but our husband and Kuidigsu are sworn brothers and treat Jinro as his own daughter. I will also have a sister-in-law in the future. My sister is introverted and not good at words. If you see her elsewhere, please help me take care of her more. Of course, everyone quickly responded, with smiles on their faces, but their minds were in a mess. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 398. Chapter 398, Brothers working together can be as powerful as gold. Academician Kui has been away from Jiangnan for too long. Many people in Xindu have forgotten the Kui family. But after all, it was a family as famous as the Lu family. Finally, some people remembered it and exclaimed, "The daughter of Academician Kui is not married." Perhaps this person remembered that this matter was disgraceful, so he held it back mid-sentence, making everyone feel as if they were being strangled by the neck and would not let go. It's really hard to go up or down, it's really uncomfortable. Fortunately, instead of being annoyed, Mrs. Kui responded openly and generously, "Yes, I was married to the Marquis of Dingbei before, but we have been divorced for a long time. Now I am just Mrs. Kui. Mrs. and Dingbei." Everyone stared in shock, but they couldn't say anything. The atmosphere became awkward for a while. Jian didn't seem to know this at all. He smiled and took Mrs. Liu's hand and said, "Auntie, I brought some fruit, haven't you seen it yet?" "Okay, look, let's take a look. The fruit our Fu Niu likes must be big and sweet." Mrs. Liu quickly asked the maid to step forward and open the two baskets. The maid wanted to open the baskets in Dongmei's hand, but Dongmei got out of the way, and the maid shrewdly retreated. Mrs. Liu and everyone thought there were fruits in the baskets, but unexpectedly, there was only one basket, but there were 2 jasper melons and more than 20 golden fruits in the other basket. At this time of year, winter is about to begin, and the melon vines have all been cut. Where did the jade melons and golden fruits come from? Mrs. Li smiled and answered everyone's questions. "These are the last batch of golden fruits and jade melons picked in autumn. This child likes to eat them very much, and his parents are spoiled, so he tried to hide a few in the cellar. Yesterday I opened one and tasted it and it was very good. When I came over today, the boy made a fuss about bringing some, saying he wanted to help my aunt entertain the guests." Jian said with a smile, "Grandpa Lu likes to eat, and so does Uncle Lu." At the end, she pointed to the strange basket in Dongmei's arms and said, "That is Fu Niu's gift to Uncle." Who could not like such a well-behaved and filial little girl? Mrs. Lu knelt down and hugged Jian, patted her back gently, and smiled like a flower. "Thank you Fu Niu for thinking about you, Grandpa Lu and Uncle. Auntie, I will send you to the front to give you the gift. Give it to your uncle, okay?" "Okay." Jian turned around and waved to Grandma and the others. "Grandma, Mother, Aunt, I went to play in the front and will be back soon." "Go, don't be naughty," Mrs. Li told her, and Mrs. Lu asked Aunt Tang to hold Jian and take Dongmei to the front yard. Everyone sat down again, not knowing what to say for a while. The clever little daughter-in-law picked a safe topic and asked, "Why does the princess call Mrs. Kui, Aunt?" "The princess usually follows Mrs. Kui to educate her." This statement is also well-founded. After all, Mrs. Kui is the only daughter of Kui University, a well-educated family, and has been proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting since she was a child, so she is qualified to initiate the princess. What's more, Mrs. Kui came here with the Li family, which shows that they get along well with her on weekdays. Without thinking, Mrs. Kui said, "No, my uncle's eldest son became my senior brother as his teacher. The princess followed my brother and honored me as senior aunt." Mrs. Lu quickly took over the conversation and asked, "Auntie, why didn't you see some of the children at home here today?" Mrs. Li smiled lovingly and replied, Those naughty boys were all sent to Luoan Academy to study. Maybe I am getting older and can't bear to see my children suffer, so I spoil them a little. But how can children become talented without suffering? Simply send them to academies, where gentlemen will teach them strictly. Even if they don't become talented, they must at least learn to be gentle and polite. A woman asked, "Oh, is Luoan Academy accepting students again? I'm also thinking about sending my little boy there." Yes, among the colleges near us, only Luoan is the best. Everyone has children at home, and when they talk about reading, the atmosphere in the room gradually becomes lively. Mrs. Lu asked people to take down the melons and fruits, wash them and cut them into pieces, half for the front and the back. Everyone liked the sweet fruits and melons, so they switched from reading to eating, drinking, clothing, and jewelry, which made it even more lively. In the front yard, in Mrs. Liu's study, all the old friends who are about the same age are sitting there. Drinking tea together, chatting about government affairs and old things is also lively and harmonious. When Lu's Haiheng brought the two brothers from the Li family in, the old man introduced them personally. The Li family was born in a small farming family, but within 2 years they became a new wealthy person in Tianwu. Outsiders just listened to the excitement and thought that the Li family was lucky. But none of the old men in the room thought so. Luck has always favored those who are prepared. If the Li family had no real ability, they would never be where they are today. I will not talk about other things, but let's talk about the new and improved seeds that have helped the Lu family to reach a higher level. The Li family brought them back from Quanzhou and secretly planted them with the Lu family. They successfully planted them and then reported them to the court and dedicated them to the emperor. How do ordinary people have such vision and patience? The rise of every family has gone through wind, frost, rain, snow, and even swords and guns. We never rely on luck to gain wealth and glory. Of course, what made them even more emotional and willing to look highly upon the Li brothers was not only the fact that Li Zhensheng faced death and recognized his ancestors, but also the unity and friendship between the Li brothers. Uncle Li took on the responsibility of supporting the family after his eldest brother disappeared. After Li Zhensheng returned to his family, he gave up the credit for Po Tian, asked for a royal title for his mother, and asked for a hereditary title for his younger brother. A family can prosper if it has such good brothers who work together without caring about fame and fortune. Everyone sat down and drank tea and chatted. Li Zhensheng had a reputation as a scholar, and later worked as a merchant for more than 10 years. Recently, he often visited Quanzhou, and his vision and knowledge were far beyond those of ordinary people. Li Lauer also read a lot of books and acted shrewdly and tactfully. He fled all the way from the north of the Great Wall to the south of the Yangtze River and became more solid and determined after being beaten by life. Faced with a group of old men, the two brothers had no stage fright at all, they were gentle and polite, and they talked eloquently, which made the old men even more appreciative. At this time, Mr. Liu's eldest attendant came in and reported, "Old master, Princess Kangal is here and said that she has a gift for the eldest man." Princess Kangal? The old men didn't react for a while, but old Mrs. Lu smiled and said, "Oh, it's Fu Niu here, please come in." Having said that, he explained to everyone, Princess Kangal is the adopted daughter of Marquis Inting, the princess personally conferred by the emperor, and also the niece of Uncle Li. Everyone suddenly remembered that Rujintan was the fiefdom of Princess Kangal. At this moment, good news has come in. Maybe the threshold was a bit high, and it was a bit difficult for her to lift her fat legs, so she bent down to hold the threshold and almost climbed over. The fair and fat little girl was dressed cheerfully and beautifully, and her every move was adorable, making the old men in the room smile. "Fu Niuer, come here quickly, let grandpa see if you have gained weight again." Mr. Lu also has a granddaughter, but she is too far away. It is rare to hear from Jiyan that this little girl does not know how to be born, and she is really cute and sensible, so he will treat her as his own. "My granddaughter is in pain. At this moment, he hugged Jian, touched her little bud, and introduced her to the old man present. Listening to the good news with a smile, he saluted and called Grandpa one by one, without any stage fright, and his small mouth was still sharp. Either saying that this Grandpa will live a long life because of his long beard, or praising that Grandpa with a serious face, he must be a high official. All the old men were made to smile and were given greeting gifts one after another. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 399. Chapter 399. Another hugely profitable deal. Some people have it as a jade pendant, some have it as a ring, they are all small accessories. But at their age and status, how could the accessories they wear when going out be defective? They are all of high quality. The elders gave it to me, but I dare not refuse. This wave of generous gifts and good news were received openly, confidently, and with a smile. When the old men saw her eyes shining brightly, they were so happy that they even secretly wagged their tails. They couldn't help but laugh so hard. An old man smiled and said, "This little girl is good, greedy for money, and will be a good housekeeper when she grows up." Lu's Haiheng took the good news to the side and asked, "Fu Niuer, didn't you bring a gift for uncle? What good things can you show to uncle?" Okay, Jiyan made a fortune and felt that he had gotten his money back, so he waved to Dongmei happily. Dongmei stepped forward, carefully put down the things in her arms, and then took off the basket covering it. No one cared about it at first. After all, what is good in the eyes of a little girl may not be good in their eyes. As a result, a pot of flowers appeared under the basket, which was unexpected and made them all stand up in shock. "Oh, it seems to be Kyubang. It's the Kyubang, it's unmistakable." Everyone swarmed around and admired the graceful orchids in front of them. This pot of orchid has green and vibrant leaves, with 5 or 6 flower stems sticking out from the middle, and each flower stem has 7 or 8 flower buds. Some flower buds are already in full bloom, while others are shy and half covered. The ivory petals are as silk-like and have a great texture. Bow your head and smell it, the fragrance of the flowers will penetrate your heart and spleen. Good flowers, really rare and good flowers. The old men all loved it so much that they wished they could plant this pot of orchid in their eyes and take it away quickly. Mr. Lu also loved the orchid very much. He was afraid that everyone would accidentally hurt the orchid, so he quickly stopped everyone from coming forward, and asked someone to move a low table, and then he safely placed the flower pot on it. An old man with a white beard was particularly fond of orchids. He walked around the table several times and finally said, "Brother Lu, can you give me these orchids? I'm willing to pay you 1,000 taels of silver." Before Mr. Lu could respond, the other old man stopped and choked, "What are you talking about? How can such an elegant gentleman be bought with money? It's really vulgar." "Well, I have a pot of spring orchid there. Brother Lu, I can exchange it with you, 2 pots for 1 pot, is it okay?" Unfortunately, Mr. Lu refused to let go at all and kept waving his hands. "No, nothing can be exchanged. My Haiheng is a good for nothing." He failed in the academic examination. But now it is the end of autumn and he has been awarded a 4th grade official, which can be regarded as a gold medal. This pot of orchids is called Kyubang. It just fits today's happy event. We must keep it well at home and no one can take it away. Old men also know this truth, but they still feel happy and itchy. There is no scholar who doesn't like flowers, especially orchids, which are highly praised by everyone. Although this pot of orchid is not a very good variety, it is well grown. Generally, Kyubang has 2 or 3 flower stems and 3 or 4 buds. But the pot has doubled in size and is growing lush and lively, which is really rare. The old men could not impress Mr. Lu, so they turned to the Li family. An old man asked, "Uncle Li, do you still have such good flowers at home? Do you want to part with them?" Li Lauer was hugging his little niece and feeding her water. When he heard this, he said, "To be honest, old man, our family bought 2 pots of this orchid. One of them was brought here to congratulate Brother Lu, and the other one was brought here to congratulate Brother Lu. The basin also has other uses." Before he finished speaking, the old men became anxious. Another old man with a white beard made an urgent offer, "Oh, don't use it for anything else, just transfer it to us. The money is whatever you want, or it can be a unique ancient painting, it's all easy to negotiate." Li Lauer and Li Zhensheng couldn't say anything, but Ji Yin took a piece of snack and gnawed on it, waving his legs and said crisply, "I won't change it, I won't change it. Another pot of flowers will be sent to the eldest brother. The eldest brother's husband is good to the eldest brother. Teach the eldest brother to write, and the eldest brother wants to send flowers to the husband." The old men were confused when they heard it, so Li Lauer explained, "Quincy has been writing with his left hand because of an injury to his right hand. A few days ago, he introduced me to Mr. Tang Yuan Tang, and he taught me how to practice calligraphy. Our family really has nothing to repay. I heard that Mr. Tang is crazy about orchids, so we found these 2 orchids. One is sent here, and the other will be sent to Luoan tomorrow." "Oh, in that case, I have been favored by Mr. Tang." Lu Haihang smiled and was not angry at all. Instead, he said, "I will hold the orchids another day, and I will go to see Mr. Tang and make friends with flowers." "Go away," Mr. Lu scolded his son with a smile, "I'm going to go, too. You're a straw bag without 2 kilograms of ink in your belly. Just farm the land well and don't live up to the emperor's grace. Making friends with flowers is such an elegant thing. How can you still do it? I have to go." Lu Haiheng was disliked by his father and did not dare to say anything. He could only smile and touch his nose. Everyone also laughed and couldn't help but envy the Lu family and his son for being so close. At this moment, 2 little heads suddenly appeared at the door. It turned out to be Lu Haiheng's 2 sons, Zhaiman and Xiaojia. Mr. Lu called them in. The 2 boys obediently bowed to everyone. Jimin said, "Grandpa, we heard that Sister Fu Niuer is here and we want to take her to play for a while." The old man was happy that his grandson was getting closer to the Li family, so he said, "Go, Fu Niuer is young, and the family is happy that some of them have gone to Luoan to study. They can't come over. You should take more care of Fu Niuer." "I know," Grandpa Jimin and Qiuji saluted together and replied in unison. Then they held Ji Yin's hand and went out. The 3 children happily discussed how to play with it. You could still hear them talking and laughing in the distance. Mr. Lu said, "After the Chinese New Year, I will also send Hyman and Qiaojia to Luoan. My family, the An family, is happy for them to study together." When the other old men heard this, the old man with a white beard who had been the most aggressive in grabbing flowers asked, "Are all the children in the uncle's house studying in Luoan?" Li Zhensheng smiled and replied, "Yes, there are a total of 7 boys in our family, and now 5 of them are in Luoan. The teaching at Luoan Academy is rigorous, but the only goal is not to take scientific examinations. Teaching children talents, etiquette, and how to behave in society is something our family likes very much, so when the children reach an age, they are all sent away." 7 boys. Several old men were secretly stunned and envious. The sons in their family all have wives and concubines, but the population is not prosperous, let alone harmonious and friendly. Many times the intrigues are more powerful than those of outsiders. If they could be like the Li family, they wouldn't have to worry so much in their later years. Not to mention the old men talking in the study, but only in the backyard. When Mrs. Lu heard that her son had taken good news to the garden, she smiled and said, "Don't let the children sit here with us, Send them to the garden to play while the weather is nice, you can still enjoy the flowers and scenery. It will get cold in a few days and I won't be able to go out of the house. Almost all the women had children, including boys aged 5 or 6 and girls aged 7 or 8. Since they have come to the Liu family, they naturally hope that their children can play well with the 2 boys of the Liu family and move around more often in the future. So they pushed the children out one after another. Mrs. Liu asked the maid to send the children to the garden and take care of them carefully. Divide some of the melons and fruits just now and take them with you. The children can also fill their bellies when they are thirsty and hungry. Children who don't like to play, they even walked and ran, and soon reached the garden. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 400. Chapter 400, Who Doesn't Have a Little Temper? Hyman and Qiaja, apart from their education, are certainly well educated in such a family. Seeing that all the little guests had arrived, they took on the responsibility of the little hosts and invited the little guests to gather together and talk. Jiyan was originally standing between Jimin and Qiaja, but a 7 or 8-year-old girl squeezed in without knowing what she was thinking. Jiyan was unprepared and almost fell down. Fortunately, Qiaja gave her a hand and saved her from falling on her back. Xiuji was very angry and scolded the little girl, "Lan Lan, what's the matter with you? What are you doing here all of a sudden?" The little girl named Lan Lan is just pretty, with a very thin figure and a frail appearance. Being scolded at this moment, she seemed a little annoyed and aggrieved, and apologized with red eyes, "Second cousin, I haven't seen you and my eldest cousin for a long time, and I wanted to come forward to talk, but I accidentally touched this short girl." Short bun. Jiyan originally only smelled a little bit of green tea, but the words short bun made her unhappy. How old is she? She hasn't grown up yet. What's wrong with being shorter? If you are short, then be short. Adding the word baizai to it is too insulting. Hyman and Qiaja were also unhappy. Hyman frowned and said, "Sister Funiur is the princess, so don't forget to be polite when you speak." Lan Ian's eyes became even redder, she pulled off her handkerchief and nodded, then turned to Jiyan and said timidly, "Little sister, I have always been outspoken. I don't look down on you for being fat and short, but I just want to make a joke with you. You are so cute. You won't blame your sister, right?" Jiyan said a lot of things in her heart, but she smiled like a famous girl. "Who are you? You must have mistaken me. My mother only gave birth to me. I have no sister." She took a step forward and held Jimin's hand. "Brother Min, she is so strange. How come she recognizes her relatives randomly? My father has no concubines, and my mother only gave birth to me and my brother." The little fat girl's face was filled with doubts and a bit of grievance, prompting Jimin to quickly persuade her, "Funiur, don't think about it. She has nothing to do with you. She is the child of my second uncle's concubine sister's family. Always so weird." Jiyan blinked her big eyes and asked still confusedly, "Brother Min said that she is a child of the concubine's family, but she is not my father's concubine, so she is not my sister, right?" Jimin was also confused and nodded quickly, "Yes, you don't need to pay attention to her." After saying that, he quickly took the good news and invited the other little guests to the pavilion to eat fruits. Children don't like to eat jade melons and golden fruits. They didn't eat enough in the summer, so of course they are happy to see them again now. Soon, everyone sat together and shared the fruit plate. Qiaja asked someone to move a box of small things that he usually liked. There are small carriages that can run on strings, slingshots, and even wood-carved birds with eggs in their bellies. Jiyan saw that the other 3 little girls seemed not too interested, so he took out a few small rainflower stones and 2 sachets from his purse, and took them to catch the stones together. After playing with the stones, she took a handful of small round pearls from her purse, replacing the apricot kernels, and sprinkled them on the table. Put a line between each two grains, and then use your fingernails to flick them. As long as the bullet hits, you can collect a pearl. The little girls are all young and love to play. They play with great interest with good news and cheer and celebrate every time they win a pearl. Lan Lan wanted to participate, but refused to bow her head. She could only stand behind the crowd, with tears in her eyes, as if she had been bullied by someone. Jiyan ignored her and felt secretly happy. The little green tea who has not yet become a spirit has come out to be a demon early, so don't blame her for being a troublemaker. Let her taste the feeling of being ostracized first. Who doesn't have a little temper? Obviously, Lan Lan didn't want to admit defeat like this. When a pearl fell to the ground and Jiyan knelt down to pick it up, she stretched out her foot to step on the hem of Jiyan's skirt. If Jiyan stood up directly and her skirt was stepped on, she would fall down, and behind her was Shizur. Fortunately, Dongmei had been standing by the side and quickly picked up Jianyan before she stepped on it. Everyone was startled, and when they all looked over, they clearly saw Lan Yan's feet that she had no time to retract. Hyman was angry at that time. Lan Lan, what are you going to do? Do you want to step on Fu Niu's skirt and cause her to fall? That's right, Xiuji grabbed Lan Yan's wrist directly. Why are you so bad? Fu Niu has been injured on the back of her head, and it will be serious if she touches her again. The other little girls and boys also looked at Lan Lan with disgust on their faces. Especially the little girls, they were having fun playing with Jiyan. Jiyan was younger than them, but he was willing to take out his beloved rainflower stones and pearls and share them with them. Such a cute, kind, and generous little sister. Why does Lan Lan always want to bully her? They are young and do not have a deep understanding or prejudice against concubines or concubines. But at this moment, they all instinctively thought that the concubine's child was really bad, at least with bad manners and bad intentions. Lan Lan was stared at by her friends and scolded by the cousin she liked. She was so angry that she cried, I saw the pearl fell, and I was afraid that it would be lost, so I wanted to help step on it. I didn't want to cause anyone to fall. As she spoke, she pulled on Jimin's sleeves again, tears falling like beads. Cousin, can you believe me? She has wronged me. She is afraid that I will rob you, afraid. Jimin threw her hand away impatiently and shouted, what's yours and mine? I belong to myself and no one can take it away. Also, don't call me cousin, you are just a relative of my second uncle and my concubine. You are not even a serious relative of our family, so don't get too close. These words were so unpleasant that they completely tore off Lan Yan's face. Just now in the flower hall, she was talking to a few girls, but she always thought of herself as a cousin of the Liu family, but the Liu family didn't recognize her at all. She gave Jiyan a hard look, then ran away crying, you are all bullying me, just wait. In the pavilion, there was a moment of embarrassment. The girls and boys looked at each other with disgust on their faces. Xiuji muttered and cursed, she is obviously the one causing the trouble, why do you still make it sound like we are bullying her? That's right, she kept crying, as if we had beaten her. Did she go to complain? The other boys also responded, feeling that they couldn't play with this little girl anymore, it was really boring. Jiyan reached out and took the hands of the two little girls, and asked pitifully, little sister, will her mother scold our mother? Will she say that we are bad children? It is our mother who failed to teach us well. We will go home and you won't get beaten. After saying that, she stretched out her right hand, revealing the newly healed scar, and sobbed softly, will the ladies get hurt when they are beaten? It hurts. I don't want the ladies to feel the same pain as me. The children had never seen such serious scars before, and they immediately felt even more painful about the news. Hearing her say it again, she was afraid that they would be beaten, which was why they cried so sadly, and everyone felt extremely protective. They are both older than Jiyan, So how can they worry the little sister? They are older sisters and they have to protect their younger sisters. Let's go back to, we can't let Lan Lan complain, she should be beaten. Yes, let's go back to. The little girls were so indignant that they no longer cared about playing, so they walked back with Jiyan in hand. The fourth update is here. A new month has begun again, dear friends, please continue to support Xiophonieur. End of this chapter.